This is chapter 2 of Building Watch Pocket, our 12-foot cruising sloop. And in this particular essay we will talk about how to create the stem and the stern. Now that the building frame has been erected, we can actually start with some of the building. And the first part we make is for the transom. This shows it already mounted on the building frame, just so you can see what it looks like. I had previously laid out the basic form of the boat so that I could determine some dimensions. I did this with some sheet metal, some drywall screws, and a batten, and some drawing paper. And this gave me some of the dimensions that I needed. Now, these were for the dimensions at the bottom of the boat. Not at the deck, but at the bottom. And from this I could determine the dimensions for the transom, the companionway bulkhead, and the forward frame. And that forward frame is kind of important because it will both be support for the forward bulkhead of the cabin trunk, and also the support for the tabernacle of the mast. The bottom of the boat is about 5 foot. The deck beam is 6 feet. So that's how I could figure it out. I wanted to have a good kick up at the stern so that I wouldn't be dragging half the bay around with me. Also, it might make it possible for me to install the outboard in the cockpit locker rather than on the transom itself. The transom is going to be pretty high, and the outboard will need to be, of course, a long shaft, but also fairly well mounted, fairly well down, low down on the transom, and so that's going to make it difficult for a rope start outboard. So I'm trying to mount it in the locker, which will require a kick up. Now, we're using the dowel centers. We used 2x4 or 2x8, I think it was, Douglas fir, and the dowel centers we've drilled out the holes and placed the dowel centers, then bang the boards together, and that marks the place to drill for the dowels, and then we can put in the dowels. It's not too difficult. There's a change in this because after I did this, I decided that I might have a lot more doweling to do. So I went out to Harbor Freight and bought a dual doweling machine, which works pretty well, and it's quite accurate. And saves a lot of time. You don't have to mess with the dowel centers and all that. You can just drill both holes at the same time. Fitting them together, you just push them in, put it in the glue, bang them in. One thing to remember when gluing up for dowels: don't put the glue on the end, or don't put the glue in the hole. Just put a little glue on the outside of the dowel, or nothing on the end of the dowel. If you put it on the end of the dowel or put it in the hole, you'll be trying to force a hydraulic, and since liquids can either be cannot be compressed, you end up with a gap. So just put it on the side of the dowel, and never on the end of the dowel or in the hole. Gluing it up. Notice that I'm using liquid nails here. I like liquid nails. It's easy to use. It's not messy. It works pretty well. I've had boats that I built 20 years ago still with just liquid nails and drywall screws, or actually deck screws, working fine for 20 years, no problem. And they've never really been undercover. They've been out, sometimes uncovered for years, and they still hold together very well. That's the same thing for Luan. I've been a big fan of Luan for planking on boats. People say it doesn't last. Well, again, I got boats that I built in 1990, which is now 30 years, with Luan, no fiberglass covering, just on the seams, and for 20 of those 30 years it's been outside under cover, without cover, and it's still holding up. And it's a lot easier to handle, a lot less messy in this stage when you're doing it. Plus, this transom is going to be faced with a with 1/4-inch Luan and a very nice piece of dark mahogany that I found, and so that's going to be epoxied on, so it's going to be stabilized very well. Once we got the transom glued up, we lay out the outline of what I want and cut it out. Beveling will be left till when the planking goes on with a grinder. It's a lot easier that way. I can't figure these bevels. Well, we mount it on the rotator, and that's on. That's ready to go. Now all we have to do is mount the false stem at the other end. It's not the true stem. That's going to be an oak, and it's going to have a lot more function than just be a landing for the planking in the stem. But that's what this is. It's just a place to glue up the planking when we run it out at the stem, and get ready and work as a landing place for the true stem. So once we got the transom and the false stem on, it's time to glue up the dots. And by gluing up the dots, I mean connecting the transom and the false stem. And there we see it. Now this is just a temporary 2x4. Part of it will stay in, but this is just a temporary 2x4 connecting the transom and the stem using a couple of knees, a transom knee and a stem knee. There's the transom knee. Now, as you see in this picture, the transom knee, the 2x4 has now been tripled up with 2 more, because that's part of the original 2x4 is going to be cut out in the area of the box keel, and so we I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, the area around in the box keel will be cut out, so the entire thing has to be pretty strong. So that's the way it is. So we'll see more about that next time. And next time we're going to put in the false bottom and the planking, and we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.